My name is Elle Archer, and this is my persuasive speech called Protecting the Harvest. It's impossible. In August of 2019, the national fast food chain Burger King began promoting its Impossible Burger at 7,000 locations across the United States. The Impossible Burger is a plant-based vegan alternative to animal-based meats. When I first heard of this product, I thought it was a new burger that the chain was promoting, only to find out that it was actually a plant-based product. This was confusing because they were calling it a burger, which myself and many others associate with a traditional meat product. This type of label confusion has led to many states passing legislation to protect their livestock producers and only allow animal-based meat products to be labeled as a meat product. To dive deeper into the issue of how meat products are labeled, I will be discussing the history of food labeling, current requirements of labels, and finally, legislation that has been passed or is in the process of changing how we label our meat products. When you read a food label, the priority of that company is to convince you to buy their product. The government, however, wants to make certain that the information is correct, truthful, and not misleading. The first ever food-related Food Administration was launched by President Abraham Lincoln in 1862. This included the United States Department of Agriculture, the Bureau of Chemistry, and the predecessor of the FDA. This is also known as the Food and Drug Administration. In 1906, after the aftermath of the novel The Jungle by Upton St. Clair, which detailed the horrendous unsanitary working conditions of the meatpacking industry, the Meat Inspection Act was passed in order to ensure consumers have a safe and sanitary meat product. There have been additional updates to labeling laws, including COOL, which is Country of Origin Labeling, and nutritional labels. What actually needs to be on a food label? There are 5 components required by law to be on a food label: identity, net weight of product, manufacturer's contact information, the nutrition label, and the ingredients. On a meat label, the most important information is that the meat is wholesome, not adulterated, properly marked, labeled, and packaged. FSIS, which stands for Food Safety Inspection Service, is a federal agency that protects the public health from these issues. A big part of making sure that the products are safe and not mislabeled in any way, with very few exceptions. According to SupplySide FBJ, supporters of these large laws argue that more restrictive labeling will reduce consumer confusion. Opponents contend that the current legislative push has less to do with protecting consumers and more to do with catering to the meat industry. Also, according to SupplySide FBJ, not surprisingly, a flurry of litigation has ensued to challenge these laws. To date, advocates and manufacturers of plant-based foods have filed lawsuits in numerous states, including Oklahoma, Louisiana, California, Arkansas, Mississippi, and Missouri. This means states are willing to protect their consumers from dangerous marketing of these products. With plant-based meats on the rise, how do we protect our animal meat producers? Senator Fisher of Nebraska is in the process of getting legislation passed to protect animal meat producers across the country. Plant-based meat producers label their product as all plant-based burgers. When they use the word burger, it could be misleading to consumers as most burgers are animal products. It is clear that fake meat companies are continuing to mislead consumers about the nutritional merits and actual ingredient composition of their products. We commend the efforts of Senator Fisher in introducing this legislation, which would end deceptive labeling of fake meat products and allow cattle producers to compete on a level playing field. This was said by the National Cattlemen's Beef Association President, Jennifer Houston. In a study, NCBA found that 55% of consumers did not understand that plant-based beef product is not beef at all, but rather an all-vegan or vegetarian product. The bill that Senator Fisher is proposing will make sure no consumers are confused about what they are buying and eating. Beef is derived from cattle, period. Under USDA, beef undergoes a rigorous inspection and labeling process, but plant-based protein products that mimic beef and are sometimes labeled as beef are overseen by the FDA instead. These products are not held to the same food safety and labeling standards as beef. The Real Meat Act will protect consumers from deceptive marketing practices and bring transparency to the grocery store, said Senator Fisher. The Real Meat Act would clarify products made out of beef and beef products. This act will ensure consumers that the word imitation is in the same size print and font next to the words beef. This will clearly indicate to the consumers that the product does not contain real meat. It is clear that while plant-based meats are an option for some consumers, we must ensure that our livestock producers are protected through updated labeling laws that clearly label the difference between plant-based and naturally raised meat products. Senator Fisher of Nebraska understands this importance and is working to pass the Real Meat Act. This act will help protect our farmers and ranchers in the state of Nebraska and across the United States, who raise real beef, which makes up $13.8 billion in total economic impact to our state. Labels should clearly state if the product is real meat or imitation meat product. Changing labeling laws to protect our farmers and ranchers is not impossible. Thank you.